Okay, so I want to take about 10 minutes this morning and discuss the elements of the Schaefer essay structure for middle school writing. One of the most common kinds of academic writing assignments is a 5-paragraph essay or a 5-paragraph theme. And we can use our understanding of the Schaefer model of paragraph construction to build a 5-paragraph theme that is tightly structured and very, very clear and does all the things that a teacher wants to see in a student writing example. What we're going to be doing, the basic 5-paragraph theme, is going to have 2 additional paragraphs, an introduction paragraph and a conclusion paragraph. And those 2 parts are sort of what you add. And then you have 3 body paragraphs. And those body paragraphs are just like the paragraphs that we discussed when we first started talking about writing Schaefer paragraphs, where you have a 1, 2, or 3 chunk paragraph, and you have your topic sentence and all of that. So this lesson will be mostly about introductions and conclusions. So I thought instead of doing a full example, I would just take maybe a writing assignment from a social studies class or something, or just any writing assignment. So if you're given this, write an essay explaining to someone planning a vacation why Cyprus would be a great place to visit. Right? Easy thing to write about. We know about Cyprus. Obviously, you could find a lot of information on the web. So we'll just think of doing that kind of doing this assignment. So first thing, your introduction. This is super important. Your introduction in a Schaefer model 5-paragraph theme should have 4 sentences exactly. You could have 5 sentences, and I'll explain that in a second. The introduction and conclusion are a little more flexible maybe than the body paragraphs that we've looked at. The first part of your introduction is going to be the hook. It's a catch sentence. It's going to be 1 sentence, and the whole point of that sentence is to get your reader interested. And it's going to be super general. It's maybe only tangentially related to the point that you make in your essay, but it's going to be something that's going to say to the reader, keep reading. This looks interesting. And then what you're going to have is focusing commentary. Now, before we had commentary where the idea of the commentary was to connect your example to your topic sentence. Here, the commentary is to connect your hook to your thesis statement. And so your focusing commentary is going to become more specific, more specific. Each of those sentences should go from your hook to your thesis statement. And your thesis statement then is the main point of your entire essay. It is kind of like the topic sentence of your essay. Okay? So your introduction, it can have 4 or 5 sentences. So you have a hook, you have 2 or 3 sentences of focusing commentary, and then a thesis statement. Your thesis statement is expressed in 1 sentence, and that is the most important sentence in your essay. Okay, so a hook. What is a hook? As I said, a hook is designed to grab your reader's attention, to get them reading, and to make them want to keep reading your essay. So, what kinds of things work as hooks? An interesting fact or a statistic. Did you know that the average goldfish has a longer attention span than a middle schooler? I want to keep reading about that. Is that true? That's the kind of thing that you use to hook, or a metaphor, or an analogy, a quotation, right? All people use quotations all the time. Sometimes people use a definition, although that is often it depends. You got to be real careful about using a definition to start off an essay. Often it can be a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is one that doesn't demand an answer. So, for example, and often it can be a question that the reader would have no idea. So, for our case, you might say, "Do you know where the cleanest beaches in the Mediterranean are?" Or something like that, and then you might then start. That would be your inroad into talking about what we're going to talk about. It's why you should go to Cyprus for vacation. So all of these things, an interesting factor statistic, a metaphor, a quotation, a rhetorical question, all of those. But that's your first sentence. Your first sentence has to jump out and grab the reader and get them reading. It's called a hook sentence. So focusing commentary. Your hook is very general. So what you're going to try to do is funnel your reader into your thesis statement. And it's going to transition from your hook. It's going to go from general to specific. So do you know what the cleanest beaches in the Mediterranean are? It's an eastern Mediterranean island where all of the beaches are public beaches. And then, so you might have a couple sentences like that move, and then you hit with your thesis statement. It's a place that also has mountains, or a number of different ways you could do this. But you're going to try to, and you've got to know what your thesis is before you actually embark on your focusing commentary. Okay, the thesis statement. That is the most important sentence of your essay. It expresses your main point or claim to the reader. It tells the reader what to expect in the 3 body paragraphs. It's always the last sentence of the first paragraph in a 5-paragraph theme. As a reader, that's where I expect it. Why? It's convention. When you write your doctoral dissertation, you can put it where you want. When you write op-ed pieces for the Atlantic, you can move your thesis statement around wherever you like. But for most academic writing that you're going to be doing up until you graduate from high school and your first few years of college, putting it as the last sentence of your introductory paragraph will get you better grades. So I would just recommend to get in that habit now. Later on, and when you're in your own writing, do what you want, but last sentence of the first paragraph is usually the best. So in a 5-paragraph theme, we use a closed thesis. I'm going to discuss today 3 types of thesis statements, but typically a closed thesis is used because you have exactly 3 points. One, you're going to have body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, body paragraph 3, 3 points. So you can use a closed thesis where the main points of each paragraph are listed. So your thesis statement, once it's written, is not written in stone. It is meant to be revised, to be revisited, to be changed, updated, and modified as you write your body paragraphs. So and often when I write things, my thesis statement, I don't even write my thesis statement until later. I write my body paragraphs and I'm like, oh, well, what was this about? And that's when I write my thesis statement. For your purposes in a 5-paragraph theme, probably you're going to craft it beforehand and then update it later. Okay, so a closed thesis statement. It has a very specific structure. You're going to say something like I claim or I argue. You may or may not use that. That's optional. But those are indicator words that, hey, reader, this is my thesis. You're going to make a general claim. It's going to be the most general statement of what your essay is arguing. And I want to make this point also, that once you begin writing for academic purposes, you're almost always making an argument. you'll do book reports, you'll maybe be asked to write personal narratives, but once you get, to ninth grade, it's arguments, it's analysis of literature, it's analysis of historical documents, it's you making an argument about something you've read or something you've experienced. Okay, and then you're going to have, in a closed thesis, what you might call justifications, or the points in each paragraph. So the general way it would be organized: I will argue point X because of reasons A, B, and C. Normally you don't put your reasons in your thesis statement as reasons, but they can be part of the thesis. So I came up with this to answer our question. The perfect holiday destination, comma, Cyprus has something for everyone: beaches, mountains, and history. So what does that tell my reader? That tells my reader I'm going to have a paragraph about beaches, I'm going to have a paragraph about mountains, and I'm going to have a paragraph about history. Bam, 5-paragraph essay that answers that question, why you should visit Cyprus. An open thesis. An open thesis is usually more general, and it doesn't explicitly direct the reader to the topic sentences of each of the paragraphs. Usually people who are writing longer longer academic pieces of writing will use an open thesis, because you can't just mention the topic sentence of every paragraph in your thesis. But for a 5-paragraph theme, you can. That's why the closed thesis is used more often for a 5-paragraph theme. Okay, so here's an open thesis that you might, and it would work for your 5-paragraph theme. Cyprus' location and diverse recreational opportunities make it the perfect holiday destination for European tourists. Bam. Open thesis. You haven't said exactly what's going to be in each of your paragraphs, but as a reader, I can guess you're going to talk about diverse recreational opportunities. And maybe perhaps you'll talk about beaches, mountains, and historical sites. Okay. And then a third one that some quite sophisticated writers might use is called a counterclaim thesis, because whenever you make an argument, one of the main things you have to do is address what other people might say in response to it, or the sort of counterpoint to your point. And so if you introduce that in your thesis statement, you're kind of getting ahead of the game a little bit. So some writers will state their thesis in the form of a counterclaim, stating the other side of the argument or a counterpoint and then introducing their point. It's going to be an effective way to address possible objections. So while there are many places in Europe with idyllic mountains, beautiful beaches, or centuries of history for a tourist to visit, Cyprus has them all, right? Somebody might say, well, there's lots of places with beaches. Why should I go to Cyprus? Well, there's lots of places, there's lots of great mountains. Well, you've addressed that in your thesis statement. I'm not saying that I recommend using a counterclaim thesis or even an open thesis. I think if you can master the art of the closed thesis, you're probably doing pretty well. Our body paragraphs, exactly like the body paragraphs that we've learned how to do already: topic sentence, concrete detail, commentary, concrete detail, commentary, and transition or conclusion sentence. The only real difference is that instead of having a concluding sentence, you will have a concluding sentence, but it will be a transition to the next paragraph. So you'll say, in addition, blah, 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 and then go on to your next paragraph. And then you're going to have a conclusion paragraph. It's like an upside down funnel. So in your concluding paragraph, it's going to be just the opposite of your introduction paragraph. You're going to progress from the specific to the general. You're going to restate your thesis in a new way that takes into account what you have done in your body paragraph. So you may have mentioned Troodos. So you might say your thesis statement, Cyprus is a great place to visit because you can go to Konos Beach or Ia Napa or Troodos, or visit the Temple of Apollo Hylatus in Limassol, or whatever. You might mention the specific things in your essay that proved your point as you made it. And then at the end, you might have you might leave the reader with some food for thought, where another topic or another idea that might come out of this. And you might say, although I didn't mention it, another great aspect of Cyprus is the wonderful indigenous cuisine. It's something that you didn't mention in your essay, but you could have written a whole essay about why going to Cyprus for the food would be great, right? Okay, so that's essentially it. Your conclusion structure, you'll have a summary sentence, then you'll have generalizing commentary, and then the next step. Often, when you're writing an academic piece, you're gonna say, "Hey, this would be the next idea that would be considered. Like this is what I've shown in my essay, and this is what the next essay should be." Okay, enough of that.